I've been waiting for this to arrive for a while now. Before I tell you what it is, let's back up a little bit. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, toy commercials were insane. They would add so many theatrical elements like actual explosions, exciting flashing strobe lights, fog and haze, and even pyrotechnics. Then I would ask my parents for that exact same toy, and it just didn't seem the same. Something's different. Well, now that I'm older, I see this as a challenge. Can I add these exaggerated elements to make a toy seem more exciting? I ordered this diorama. It definitely reminds me of something I might see in a movie. It has some really great little details, but it's missing any moving parts or lights. So I have some ideas that I want to add to this toy and then film a dramatic commercial. The instructions seem very clear to follow and reminds me of Lego instructions. I started assembling the parts piece by piece, and as someone who likes to build things, I found this very enjoyable. And I want to make it clear that I have no sponsor or affiliation with anything you see in this video. I just found this toy online and I wanted to challenge myself to make it exciting by adding my own electronics. Most parts simply snap together. And I noticed some nice little weathering details that are already on these parts. And I'm so happy that it came with these little extra parts like wooden crates and oil barrels. And uh-oh, these legs of the table came broken, but it's not a big deal. I was able to super glue it back together, and it adds some little extra character to this piece. I've got all of my loose items put together and ready to add to the scene. And quick shout out to Callum for teaching me everything I know about the jerry can. I stumbled across this fascinating video, so check it out if you want to learn more. And I'm really excited that they included these weathering decals, and they have different options and variations, so you can customize it just the way you want it. And I usually get nervous applying these stickers correctly, but luckily these are pretty tough and the adhesive is strong enough that I can realign it if needed. And it looks like they make more sets that you can combine together side by side or stacked vertically to create an even larger set. Alright, just gotta add these final pieces, and I'd say this step is done. I love how this turned out, and I really appreciate all the tiny little details that they put into this kit. And now comes the hard part. I need to design and 3D model my own custom parts. I created this 3D blueprint to kind of test out and see what I wanted to add. It's great to test it out in the virtual environment before I can 3D print it and try it on the real thing. I also had to figure out how the circuit's going to work and then design the circuit layout, and then I have to program the microcontroller using the Arduino IDE. And the microcontroller that I chose to use is called the ATtiny84. You might be more familiar with the ATtiny85, a much more common microcontroller, and this is actually the exact same chip, but it has more pins available. And I can make a video on how this works if you're interested, because I really didn't see much of it online. And now it's time to conduct my symphony of electronic parts. And here I can test how to turn lights on or off, fade up and down, turn servos, make motors spin, and I can even create smoke on command. Well, it's not actually smoke, it's water, but it kind of looks like smoke to me. The piezo will vibrate at a very specific frequency that atomizes the water into very ultra-fine water droplets, creating a mist or a haze effect. I like it since it looks kind of like smoke when it's covered and falls on the ground. And it would be cool to make this compact to enhance maybe a magic trick, just add a little smoke into the air. And I 3D printed this cone shape to help funnel the mist into the direction that I wanted. And speaking of 3D printing, I can now 3D print the other parts that I created for this project. And believe me, I tried several different revisions and tweaks to try to find out what works best. And I actually need to design a mini air compressor. And to do this, I'll need the help of a regular balloon. I need to cut 2 small square pieces that will act as flaps and 1 large round piece. The flap on the inside will block the air going out, but will allow air to only flow inwards, and vice versa for the flap on the backside. The rubber band will keep the balloon tight, and as the balloon vibrates, air will be pushed out the nozzle with the help of the electric motor. I need a mini tank to hold the water, and luckily I happen to keep random items that I seem to never want to throw away, and I happen to find the perfect mini water tank. It even has a frosted look to help blur the inside. This 3D print will go on the end of the tube since I want to create small mini bubbles. So the motor pushes and pulls the balloon, which opens one flap and closes the other, to direct air into the tube and down into the water. And I'm so excited that my design works! I can now create my own mysterious sci-fi bubbles. And these are the 3D printed tank holders, and I designed a light to be underneath, but to help the light bounce upwards, I'm going to use this chrome pen. It's very reflective and almost becomes like a mirror, so I added it to this and a few other of my 3D printed parts. These 3D printed tank holders look nice, but they're a little too clean, so I'm going to add a black wash by watering down black acrylic paint. I apply the paint all over the model, wait for it to dry a little bit, and then dab it away with a paper towel. It's a great way to add some variation and detail. I'll do the same thing for these light holders. I think the security camera should have more of a light yellow or a tan color, but then I'll add some of that dirt and dust and blackwash to cover it up and give it some character. And I'll show you some of my cut content. I worked hard on designing a spark generator from parts of a lighter, but it took a lot of electricity and it was just a little too difficult for this project, so I ended up cutting it, but maybe I'll bring it back for another project. I like to use my CNC machine to quickly create my circuit boards. It can drill out the holes, it can carve out the traces, and then cut out the board. And with a little help from my mini vacuum cleaner. So now it's time to actually finish wiring up the parts, soldering everything together, and hope that the board comes together and works as I planned. So it's the weekend, and I am sick. Just thought you might want to hear my sick voice. And now, let's cut back to healthy Sage. Take it away. I've got my battery, I've got my PCB board, I've got my 3D printed holder, and here goes our first test. I thought I had it, but then if you notice, after the programming blinking stage, the motor and lights reset. It kept doing this, and I couldn't figure out why. And I did not want to start over, so I thought maybe it's just not enough power. So I tried a larger battery, and this time, it worked perfectly. No resetting, it looks great, it works exactly the way I wanted it to. So I was right, it just wasn't enough power. And guys, I am almost ready to film my commercial. I've got my diorama built. I've got my strobe light. I've got my dry ice and water for that atmospheric fog and haze. I've got my homemade circuit board and this weird looking Frankenstein Christmas nightmare of lights and wires. So all that's left to do is align and connect all the moving pieces and parts. And ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my epic and overly dramatic toy commercial. Mission accomplished. I had a lot of fun working on this. I really want to thank you for your support and watching this video, and I hope to see you next time.